Yo, what is going on, guys? We've got episode 37 of many today. We've got a fun episode we're going to be doing today. Today is the first episode we're going to be doing kind of like an interview style with one of our very own, Gavino. So we've got Gavino here, we've got G in the producer chair, and myself, Colton. Today is going to be kind of a practice episode for us. We're going to be just kind of talking back and forth. Gavino and I kind of see, how long he's been with us, where he started, how he enjoys or doesn't enjoy working with us, and all that kind of stuff. So we'll kind of jump right into it today. I don't have anything kind of start us off. So how's it going, Gavino?
It's going great. How are you?
Good. How you feeling?
A good little workout today, finally.
Yeah? Yeah? How you feel like you've been getting back in the gym finally here?
Yeah, I was a little inconsistent in the last couple weeks, but I think I worked out 4 times last week and then 1 time so far this week. So trying to get back on track.
What's your goal right now, working out wise?
Just 3 times a week ish. 3 to 5 is always the goal. 5 is always the goal, but I think 3 is more of a realistic one, especially on the weekends. Just taking a little bit of time away from the gym, but three's the goal.
You doing anything else, like kind of personally? I know I always talk about like steps and water intake. Is there anything else that you're trying to focus on diet-wise or anything like that right now?
I've actually restarted carnivore this week. So I did it for about 4 or 5 months consistently, maybe a little more last summer, and then just got back on it Monday of this week. So today will be day 3. Trying to be a little bit more consistent. I throw a little bit of fruit in there just because it's hard for me to stay completely strict to meat and egg. I don't know how you do it, but throw some fruit in there, and that's about it for that.
How'd you like carnivore when you did it for like 4 or 5 months? Like, what's your inside?
The first couple days was terrible.
Yeah.
And it was just so different just because, not that I ate crappy, I wasn't sitting in the McDonald's drive-thru every day, but I think that the meals were definitely different for me and took a little bit for my body to adjust, especially. And then I think after the 2-week mark, that was kind of where things got a little easier. Started mixing in some chicken with some beef or just hamburgers. That's kind of my go-to. So it got easier as we went. And then about 4 or 5 months down the road, I just kind of hit a wall to where I'm like, God, I really want something sweet or something like that. So I probably ate a Dorito or something, and then it took me right back off the carnivore.
That's not easy, especially when, we drink beers on a weekend or something like that, and you got the bag of chips because that's the go-to for everybody. They bring their Lay's chips, and you kind of got a couple beers in you, and you're like, a couple chips won't hurt. The first week when you did it and you said it was kind of hard, was it like, did you have headaches or were you tired, or like what? Was it just difficult, like not eating the foods you wanted to eat, or what was hard about it?
It was a little bit of all of that, really. I think being a little bit tired, I guess the hunger part was a little bit different for me, just because I'm like, oh, I'm hungry, I'll just go, snack on this or snack on that. But there wasn't a whole lot of snacking for that other than like beef jerky, but kind of just like 2 meals a day for that. I usually fast anyways, so I usually start my fast at 8 p.m., go till about noon, and that's when I try and eat lunch. But just having the variety of meals gone, and it's just, hey, it's meat, it's eggs, that kind of was a little bit difficult for the first couple weeks for sure.
Yeah. 16-hour fast, that's really solid too. What did you feel like? I'm trying to think on carnivore, what was it like for you weight loss wise? Because I know it's kind of one of the reasons you like to do it. One of the reasons I like carnivore so much is it's like so strict that you don't really have like options. Like when I diet normally, it's like, oh, well, if I'm lifting, pasta is good for recovery, or rice is good for, you make your muscles look big. It's like a normal diet is not restrictive enough in a sense where you can just kind of like substitute and play around, and all of a sudden you had too many carbs and not enough protein in a day. So the reason I like carnivore is it's very strict. But for you, I think you were doing it more for like a weight loss and just kind of like maybe like a cleanse and just kind of do it. Did you notice in that 4 or 5 months weight loss wise, like did it make a big difference that way for you?
Yeah, it was pretty consistent, especially at first. I felt like I lost a lot of water weight. So it kind of, the scale kept turning a little bit, and I'm like, dang, it's like not necessarily a pound a day, but like 2.5 pounds a week, maybe 3 pounds a week. And that was just water weight stuff, like I said. But as we went on, I started to not see results, and I'm like, well, I got a little bored of it, I guess. But at first, especially, I could tell the scale was tipping a little bit. I think I lost like 15, maybe 17-ish pounds total through that time.
Yeah.
And obviously, I could have been a little bit more strict at times too towards the end. But I think that now that I get back into it and I have an idea of how it worked the first time and what actually happens, I think I'll try and be a little bit more consistent to finish the summer.
Yeah, I think one of the things we definitely need to work on too is like the calories in, like how many calories you should be taking and stuff like that. I know I've talked to you about that before. So are you going to be tracking like calories and stuff like that now that you're hopping back on?
Yeah, I've tried your app, the Chronometer
Yeah.
app. I've used it for the 3 days, so that's kinda cool to see. I think it has, like, the mark of, like, 2,200
Yeah.
calories-ish. So I haven't played around with that too much. I know you kinda say eat whatever, whenever, so there's not a whole lot of limit to calories, I guess, on that, but I still try and stay strict, um, just staying around that 2,000 calorie mark for the 2 meals that I eat.
Did you go on that app and adjust like how many calories you're supposed to? So I went in there and like put my carbs down to 0 because I just don't have any. I mean, technically my element packet has like 1 gram of carb or something, but I put my carbs down to 0 and then I adjusted my fat and my protein to the right amounts that I wanted. So I can tell you what those are too. Because then on like the main screen, you can see like your circles up here of like how much energy you've spent and all that stuff. If you swipe over one, you can see how many calories of fat versus protein you've intake. So I can set you up with that stuff too. But no, that's all good stuff. Let's hop into a little bit more about Gavino so you guys can kind of hear that. So when did you, let's take it way back. We know each other from high school. Gavino is a couple years older than me. We played baseball together and just kind of like, we weren't like by any means like really close friends in high school, but we were acquaintances. We played sports together. We got along. We had no issues and that kind of stuff for the most part, right?
Couple issues on the baseball field,
We,
a wrestling match.
yeah, we did. We like to have fun and just kind of goof around. Gavino is kind of not a troublemaker in high school, but he liked to have a good time and just like kind of class clowny, kind of just like, I don't know. That's probably the best way to put it. It's probably just kind of like the class clown vibe, just kind of doing whatever it takes to kind of get a laugh and a smile. So, yeah, Gavino and I go back to high school days. And then I guess after I graduated, the first time that we would have connected business wise would have probably been painting, right? So tell us from your point of view about, I mean, just give a brief on that, right? So we were in Princeton, the OG Princeton. This is like the OG Princeton where I just had 1,500 square feet and then had just expanded to, I think, 3,000 square feet. So I had the 2 little rooms. It wasn't even really an open gym. It was just like me and my buddies that were allowed to work out there. Were you working out there at the time at all or not, a little bit?
Yeah, so I'd ride with Caleb Kozlowski from Watoma most
Okay.
mornings, and that was a little weird for me at first because that's kinda like me first getting into weightlifting again, I guess, because you lift in high school, but it's never that serious unless you're at a gym like this, I guess.
Yeah.
So I would ride with Caleb from Watoma, and at that time, I didn't know Caleb very well, so it was kinda just like an awkward 30-minute, "Hey, here are my rides outside, my ride share." He would take me to Princeton, and then we'd work out. Sometimes Josh would be there too, but it was kinda like the 3 of us every morning, and starting off, it was a little scary for me just because I hadn't done it in so long, but that was definitely the OG Princeton. I mean, I liked that gym a
And,
ton.
and so that's before, so you were working out with us before you came and helped paint that room then, right?
Yeah, I don't even know how I got involved really. I'm not exactly sure if I reached out or you reached out or, hey, stop being lazy, come work out, something. But I saw that Caleb was going there and then you connected me with him and then you're like, hey, Caleb's going to pick you up in the morning. So that's kind of where that first started at Princeton.
Sure. So then we expanded to the middle section. Gavino and I and a couple other people, we ended up like just kind of, this is like our first work interaction. We just had like a handful of us painting this room together basically, which nobody really likes painting. If you do, you're lying. I mean, it's not that much fun. But we ended up painting this room, did it good enough, whatever. So that was kind of like our first work interaction. Gavino and Nolan, which actually after this episode, we're going to be recording another episode with Nolan. So you guys will meet him on next week's episodes. I believe Gavino and Nolan, I think, probably just used to play PlayStation together and that kind of stuff. So then Gavino, at the time when Nolan recommended you work with us, what were you doing for work at the time? And this is like, I'm talking like warehouse, like that original
Like
time.
the Berlin warehouse
Yeah.
outside of town?
Yeah, like when you worked with us for like a couple days.
I don't know what I was doing around then. I was a job coach for a while through somewhere here in Watoma, basically job coaching people with disabilities. So that was pretty rewarding just because I was already a coach and I had just gotten into coaching. So I just helped people through there. But with those kind of clients, they'd only work like 15, 20 hours a week because they obviously won't work full time. So that's where I'm kind of like, oh boy, what am I going to do with myself? I wasn't in school anymore after the year and a half or year basically that I was in college and kind of hit a wall as to where I wanted to be. So I'm sure it was a PlayStation conversation with Nolan. He's like, hey, we're looking for help or something. So reached out to you and then you got me to the Berlin warehouse, which is kind of my first time seeing all the equipment and stuff. And that was pretty cool. You open up that extra garage and you're just staring up the wall of equipment all over the place. So like this stuff's pretty cool, but I also am not very handy. So you're kind of like, all right, just sweep this or sweep that. So that was kind of my first spot while I'm watching Nolan build these machines, but that didn't last very long.
What
like you
year?
said.
What year do you think that might have been? That had to have been like 2018.
Yeah, I was gonna say 17 or 18 probably.
So we had a original Berlin warehouse that I know I've talked to you guys a little bit about if you listen to our earlier episodes. I should add this. If you are listening now and haven't listened to all of our episodes, go back and listen to episodes 1 through 4 because that'll give you a really good understanding of like the story, the history of us. And then when you start seeing these interviews, you'll kind of be able to piece some of these things together back to episodes 1 through 4. So we're thinking maybe like 2017, 2018. We had this warehouse in Berlin. And I think Nolan and Gavino had a conversation, and Nolan, like they were PlayStation buddies. They just played a couple games together, whatever. And Nolan goes, "Hey, I think Gavino's kind of looking for some work. I like him a lot. You should consider him. Like we could use an extra hand as part-time. I don't think he's looking for full-time stuff. I think is kind of what I remember." I said, "No, sure. Yeah, sure. No problem." So I was driving a forklift around, and I had to move some equipment, just kind of like organize. So I had Gavino come out there and meet me. And I just think it was a different role that Gavino has never. Let me get it. I think it's a different role that Gavino has never been a part of. Just a different kind of job, right? Like, and moving gym equipment isn't something that just comes naturally. You need to do it a couple times and understand how to tip a machine and move a machine. So I remember, like specifically the day I was working with Gavino in Berlin. I was driving the forklift, and Gavino was to like just kind of help me get my machine on the forklift, so then I could drive it across the warehouse and then drop it off. And I think most of the day I ended up getting off the forklift, tipping it, having Gavino hold it. I'd drive my forklift under there. He'd set it back on the forklift. I'd move it. I'd get off. I'd help tip. You know, it was just like a lot of like working back and forth. And it was like, and this is when Gavino was a lot younger too. So it's just like the initiative thing of like, well, what should I do? How should I do it? And also me trying to be a leader at the time, right? Like I was a lot younger. So again, communications, me learning, understanding how to be a leader. Gavino, younger. We've also changed and grown a lot since then. So this was like our first real work interaction. Didn't last very long. It was like a couple days, and we're like, yeah. I told Nolan, I was like, I just don't think Gavino's a good fit. I think he.
I was thinking the same thing. So.
I was like, he should just go do whatever he wants to do. Like he's a good guy, but like he doesn't want to work like this. Like this is different kind of work, you know. So that was kind of like the first interaction, which was interesting, and I gave him a shot, and it just didn't work out. So I don't think between then and Watoma, there wasn't any other things, right? Like we didn't bring you on any other random jobs or like try you out anymore.
I don't think so. I think the reason that I reached out the next time was rumors were swirling around town that, hey, Colton bought this building downtown. It sounds like there's going to be a gym. And at that point, I was working for a tree farm out towards Wild Rose. And that's because one of my buddies, Anthony, got me in there. So he was working there. And that was even more manual labor than when I started with you. That was walking every 3 feet, bending over, slapping a tree in the ground, just planting hundreds of Christmas trees every day. So my body was probably at 22 going on 42 at that point, just because I'm just like, when I first started out especially, I'm just like, manual labor is just not for me. I'm kind of want to sit behind a desk and not do all those hard tasks. But heard about the Watoma gym possibly coming. I reached out to you, and that's where you kind of got me in that second and final time. So
we buy this building that we're sitting across from right now in Watoma, 230 East Main Street, Watoma. We're going to turn it into a gym. Gavino hits me up on Snapchat and says, hey, like I heard you might be opening something. Like I'm still interested in working for you if something would work out. I took the approach of, I didn't really commit to Gavino right away. Like he messaged me, I said, give me like a week or like give me some time to think about this. And then it kind of just started connecting my brain. I'm like, who better to be the Grizzly Fitness Watoma, like the face of the gym? The problem is we have all these locations, and my mindset early on was always low overhead, no staff really, just people come and go and use the facility, and like we keep it clean. And as we continued to grow, it's hard to have like me be at all of the facilities, but we want to continue helping these small communities have awesome gyms. So I sat on it for a little bit. I think I brought it up to like my parents, my family, my friends, and I was like, guys, I think this is a really good opportunity. I said, like, Gavino is still looking for work. We're going to have a gym. Gavino's like a big face in Watoma already because, and we didn't really go into this, but Gavino actually is a very, he's been coaching for several years in youth sports, middle school, high school sports in Watoma specifically. So he's been, he's went to school here. He's an alumni. He's been helping all these kids, and he knows all the parents, right? So naturally, I'm like, this is a fantastic opportunity for Gavino to be the face of this facility. Like, that's what I was thinking. So I told my friends, told my family, and a lot of people were like, that's not a bad idea. And a lot of people were kind of like, I don't know, you tried him out before. Like, I don't know if it's a good idea, right? And I just had a gut feeling. I'm like, I think this is a good idea. So I ended up talking to Gavino. I said, hey, and I don't think I overpromised, especially in the beginning. I was like, hey, like if you want a job, we'll keep you busy. And then you can help out at the gym once that's up and running, basically. You can help us kind of get our building ready and then also help with PF probably, right? Were you doing a lot of PF stuff in the beginning?
Yeah, especially at first, because obviously this place wasn't open. So it's kind of finding hours. I worked some hours in Berlin gym staffing, and then I do a lot of cleaning over there. And then because back then I don't remember a whole lot of big PF jobs, but my first like real job when I signed back on there or whatever was the extraction of Green Lake. That was kind of like my first day with PF was clearing out the whole Green Lake gym.
Yeah, that was pretty bang bang. I actually think like we hired you like early September, and then it was like literally like, hey, next week we're going to extract this other gym that we're closing. For those of you that don't know, we had a gym in Green Lake, and we got kicked out of there. So yeah, like literally one of Gavino's first jobs was we needed extra hands to come and help get all of our shit out of there. So interesting. What was your first job at this building? Like, what was the first task that you got tasked with?
One of my favorite ones. Well, you gave me the tour of the building like the day before, and then you're like, all right, tomorrow you're going to start here. Just going to be you. This is how to get in. Gave me a key or whatever. Let me know how to get in there. And I was tasked with sweeping every inch of that Watoma gym, which I don't know how many square feet the whole Watoma gym is, but you gave me a shop broom and you kind of said, all right, we'll see you tomorrow. And I spent the entire day covered head to toe in dust. And I mean, because that building hadn't been commercially used. I mean, it was used as
I think it was storage.
Storage.
Yeah, for like cold. 5-6 years.
Yeah, so it was just storage. It was nasty. It was dusty. For those that have been in the back section or seen the back section of Watoma, it obviously still needs work. Well, that's what the whole gym looked like. So just an inch of dust and sand everywhere. And I was the one tasked with sweeping every inch of it. I remember going home. My hands were hurting. I had like blisters. And I'm like, oh boy, I'm not going to make it again. I thought it was going to be another week experience. But I got a little older since the first time we worked together. So I just did it. And then I did it again the next day. And then I think that's when the hard tasks like that kind of ended. So
yeah, I was going to say, I thought it was a couple days of kind of sweeping the gym, and we all spent a lot of time getting this building ready, but it was like we were just trying to give Gavino hours. Like I wanted to put money in his pocket, and I was like, this is the best thing we got right now. Just help help the base of, just help get this place starting to look a little bit better, right? Like let's just sweep it, I guess. Like that's all we could really come up with. So yeah, I remember that, and I was kind of, not that I was thinking of it as like a test to see if Gavino would make it, but I was just like, this is all we got, and we'll see how it goes. So Gavino's first experience with us again was grab a broom and help us clean. And I think, yeah. So anyways, we'll move on for that. That was kind of funny to look back on kind of where you started. So then you also worked at our Berlin facility kind of as a gym staff, and at this time you weren't really a manager of anything. It was more just like, help us here, help us there. Were you working consistently at Berlin? Was there like days and times? Because we've never been very good at consistent scheduling.
I was going to say as consistent as we probably could have been. You're like, all right, these couple days, go there. We also had the PF warehouse there. So I would spend some time with Nolan especially, and then Kyle. They would be building the machines in the back. So I was kind of the little guinea pig or whatever. I was just a little assistant to those guys because they knew what they were doing. I'm not handy with tools. So I'm like, all right, I'll open the boxes. I'll take out the garbage, all those little tasks too. And then staff the gym as well as we could because we didn't have a whole lot of staffed hours there anyways. So I kind of just cleaned where I could, and that's where I started learning how to sign people up and stuff like that too.
Yeah. Yeah, so at the time you came on, I think when we bought Watoma, we had been kind of in the launch phase of Berlin too, like the first 6 months. Like we basically got Berlin, opened it as fast as we could. We're open for a couple months, and then I think we we worked a deal on this, so like it all just kind of was bang bang. So yeah, Berlin was half gym, half warehouse. It was obnoxious. Again, for those of you listening, go back and listen to episodes 1 through 4. I mean, we were building equipment on the gym floor. Some days we'd have to move equipment to have more space for our receiving of Priority Fitness. Like it was just kind of a shit show at the time, but that's just kind of what we did to make things work. So actually really cool. I wish we had more like pictures and video content from back then. I wish we did what we're doing now back then because it'd be cool to document all that stuff that really was the beginning. So you learned how to do stuff at Berlin. You started doing stuff. Let's talk about your first. Let's talk about you and Nolan on the. What were we doing? So we were moving. I think we were moving out of our PF warehouse in Berlin, the one that you originally helped us on for 3 days way back when. We bought our new Berlin warehouse. We were moving out of that one. So I think what was happening is we were dispersing. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought we were dispersing equipment from our Berlin warehouse to either New Berlin or
I think it was
Princeton.
It was Princeton.
Right.
So that back storage room.
But it was taking stuff out of that original Berlin warehouse, I think, right?
Yep.
So Gavino, very like again, I think it's like the first week or two of him being hired on again. Nolan needed a hand, and at the time we drove our own box trucks. So Nolan was driving a 26-foot liftgate box truck. Gavino was the helping guy sitting shotgun, and we were moving equipment out of our original warehouse that Gavino helped us on several years before into 2 separate storages as much as we could. We had a storage in Princeton by our gym, and then we had our storage in Berlin on our gym floor, basically. So tell us the story of that.
Well, we were moving cardio equipment, especially, and all the bikes are easy. And on those lift gates, you got to be kind of precise with the treadmills because you got to get it towards the edge. Usually, well, now we have like 2 guys usually doing stuff. So one guy's lifting it, one guy rotates it. Well, that was only me and Nolan that day, and Nolan's obviously a pro. So he took his treadmill, put it right to the edge, spun it, sat perfectly on the lift gate, took it down, took it inside. And I'm like, all right, well, I can do the same thing. So call the lift gate back up. I take my treadmill out there. I slide it towards the edge. I try spinning it. Well, I must have spun it too close to the edge where one wheel went off. And that's where the whole treadmill started to go on its own. So next thing I know is there's a whole treadmill going overboard off the lift gate. And I'm not that strong anyways at that point, but the treadmills also, I don't know how heavy those things are.
Yeah, like 400 pounds, 350.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to pull a 350-pound treadmill back up the lift gate. And I'm like looking to make sure that Nolan's not watching me because he just took one in and he comes back out and he helps me get the thing probably on the ground. I mean, it went straight off, basically. I slowed it down as well as I could, but that thing went straight off the lift gate. It probably cracked some plastic or stuff.
So is it like nosedive, basically? Like if a treadmill like this, it was just like straight up and down?
Yeah, it was. Well, if the lift gate's here, it went straight down off the motor, straight down. I'm there like pulling it straight back, trying to catch it, but no, I couldn't catch it. I just slowed it down a little bit before it slammed on the ground, and then Nolan comes out and there's a treadmill standing straight up, and I'm like, now I got to hear about this from Colton. I'm like, is this dude gonna fire me? I just dropped a lift gate I just dropped a treadmill off the lift gate, and
nobody's ever done that before. Gavino's first 2 weeks try out again.
Yeah, apparently it hasn't been done since. So that's one record I'll keep for a little while, I guess.
What you guys didn't tell me for like a long time. Like I'm pretty sure you told Nolan, or you and Nolan agreed. Like, because there's like a lot of little things that like I'll eventually hear about. Like Gavino might heard something from some other employees, and Gavino tells me, and none of it's a big deal. Like none of it at the end of the day is like gonna make it or break it. But in that situation, you're kind of like, you're like, oh fuck, this is horrible. Cole, this treadmill's probably super expensive. He's gonna be pissed. And yeah, so I'm pretty sure you guys had a conversation just to kind of say, hey, we'll keep this one under the rug for a little bit.
He was a good friend there. And then I remember you finding out like 2 weeks later. I don't even know how it came about, but somebody told you. And
it might have been longer than that, dude. I swear it was like a while until like, I don't know. But yeah, it was, that's funny. Do you have any other funny stories like that you're like, I don't think so. I was just curious if there's anything that rings a bell.
No, that was probably the top one for me, for sure. I mean, I don't know what's going to up that.
What, did you come on a lot of PF jobs? Like, did you come on any like overnight PF jobs with us? Like, I assume you traveled with us a decent amount, like out of state.
A lot of those were like, all right, we're meeting at 5 a.m. and then it's kind of like an all day thing. I remember that specifically, again, with Nolan, just kind of riding in the front of the Penske truck or whatever, trying to keep Nolan awake. I'm blasting music or rolling with the windows down just because it's so early in the morning. Or
we had a good phase where Nolan like wasn't sleeping, but he had a weird sleep schedule. So he was always very tired driving, right? So, and we're making guys drive trucks that like aren't truck drivers either. And then we're waking up at early times. So a lot of the times, whoever was riding with Nolan, the shotgun rider was tasked with keeping Nolan awake to keep driving. Like that's how we operated, right? So it's like, hey, just go with Nolan tomorrow. Just make sure he stays awake, dude. Like just keep him awake. Like that was literally like the text that would happen. So that's actually funny too.
Yeah, I would warn him about a stop sign. I'm like, oh, yeah, look, there's a stop sign down there. Kind of just like making sure his eyes were open. And I mean, we almost blew it. I'm sure we did blow a couple, but we almost blew a couple more. And I would just let him know in advance. I'm like, oh, look, that light's turning red down there, just to
Yeah.
kind of keep him on his toes. But
Yeah.
yeah, everybody kind of not dreaded, but we're like, all right, well, we got
Right to the
an extra job today, trying to keep Nolan awake.
Yeah.
So that's all. I mean, that's the main stuff I remember from PF jobs at first. But
he's grown up a lot too, and obviously matured. So like that's not an issue anymore, I don't think. But early on, like this is 5-6 years ago, probably, or 4 or 5 years ago, or maybe I guess just maybe 3-4 years ago. But 2020, 2021, when he was driving a lot, yeah. But that's not an issue anymore. I don't think so.
no, I also remember like not being in the way, but when you're first starting out with moving equipment, you don't know which way a machine's supposed to go or what. So half the time they're like, all right, tip it this way. I'd tip it the wrong way. And I'd be standing there looking like an idiot. And I mean, these guys have done it for a couple years by then. So just kind of learning that whole process of, all right, machine goes this way. This is how you stick the cart under it. You use your foot for leverage to get the machine up, stuff like that too. So definitely a lot of learning, but that part's always fun traveling with the guys.
Yeah. So let's fast forward to what are we at for time right now? Oh, we got plenty of time. So fast forwarding to like 2-3, let's say like 2 years ago. Gavino's like a full-time coach. I don't want to say full-time, but like he does coach most seasons, or in the past he's coached every damn season. He does basketball, he does baseball, and he does football. And some of them he's taken season breaks or moved on from it and come back to it or whatever. But there were several times where so Gavino's balancing this, and then Gavino is also balancing now kind of like being and we're talking 2-3 years ago, Gavino's kind of becoming a little bit more of a prominent role in the gym staffing. He's not really a PF guy, he's a gym staff, but then like what we would do, and I talk about this on our episodes, is we tried hiring guys for our gym staff that could help us on PF stuff. So that way we could pull our gym staff and not worry about being staffed that day and then go on PF jobs. So I think there was a lot of that, and there's still once in a while that, but I'd say like 2-3 years ago, that was a pretty common occurrence where like almost on a weekly basis, I feel like almost like 1 or 2 days a week, you were on the road and you're kind of like, dude, I can't do what I need to do at the gym.
Yeah.
What was that like? And just, I mean, you're trying to be a good gym staff. And I don't even know if necessarily at that time you were a gym manager. You probably were, but to where you are now, like the role has changed and grown a lot. So like 2-3 years ago, we're kind of developing Gavino as a gym manager. And yeah, you're bouncing back and forth between PF a lot. I mean, sometimes you'd be on the road the whole week and you'd be like, dude, I need to get in the gym, right? So what was that like at the time? What was your...
Well, I think Ellie was the one that kind of covered a lot more for us here, because I don't remember who our first like initial staff were here. I think it was just like all of us.
Yeah.
And then we brought on the part-timers and the people that still work for us now. But at that point, it wasn't how it is right now. So we definitely didn't have as much staff. Most of it was Ellie, who's also trying to get some projects done and stuff because we had just opened the gym. So a lot of that was her, hey, like the night before, I'm like, all right, well, Colton's bringing me on a PF job. I text Ellie at 8 p.m., hey, I'm going on a PF job tomorrow night or tomorrow during the day. Can you cover Watoma? So kind of whatever things she had going on, whether it was Princeton or wherever, she'd make the way here. So I think she was kind of the one that took over most of that stuff. But I mean, now if I were to leave the gym 2 or 3 days a week, I mean, I would feel so overwhelmed just because there's a lot of inventory stuff and stuff along those lines too. But definitely a lot harder, or definitely a lot easier to leave the gym now than it was back then.
Yeah.
But I also enjoyed it, and I mean, you get to see so many cool gyms, so many cool people. Obviously, you're spending days with the guys just moving equipment and stuff. So I enjoyed that. But then I'm like, oh boy, how's the gym going to look the next day? So just worried about that aspect too. And I mean, people like seeing a face. So members like seeing people. They like seeing me. I mean, even this last couple weeks where I've been in Berlin a little more, they asked me, they're like, oh, we thought you quit and stuff like that. And I'm like, no, I'm still here, just a little busy in other spots too. But definitely have more staff now. So it was not as fun back then.
Yeah, I get that too. I mean, there's probably, in a sense, it's easier now to leave because we have more coverage, but it's also harder to leave now because you have more responsibility. Back then, it was harder to leave because we didn't have other people to help, but it was easier back then because you had less responsibility in a sense, So like, it sucked leaving back then 2-3 days a week, but like there was less stuff going on or less rules and restrictions that, not even rules and restrictions, but kind of like there's less systems in place and less organization 3-4 years ago than there is now. So like kind of a teeter-totter there. I would like to add too, when we hired Gavino way back when, and I was kind of asking friends and family if it's a good or bad idea, the initial response was like Gavino being like the class clown and the initiative, and like, is he a good, like, we understand, Colton, where you're coming from. He's a good coach and like he likes people and he's a good face, but like you already tried him out once. How do you know it's going to be a good, like that was a common thing. And for me, I just had a gut feeling that you'd be good. And I really like developing leaders and people and like seeing the best in individuals. And I think that's exactly, like, you're probably one of the most on our team, a prime example of that, because when we brought you on, you are not the same person you are today. One, there's age and maturity and that stuff that naturally happens. But I don't think necessarily if you would have been doing something else this entire time that you would have developed into like the leader that you are now. So, and maybe that's me being biased, but I do feel like from day one to now, like there's just been such a dramatic change in your leadership abilities, your leadership qualities, your communication skills. Like we've improved all that stuff drastically. And so sometimes when companies hire people, they need to hire a person to fill a role right away. And back then we weren't in that position to do that. We hired Gavino as a let's develop and let's make this guy awesome. And I think that's exactly what we've done this far. And we continue to grow every day. I know on a personal aspect, you and I kind of used to butt heads, not necessarily like 3 years ago, our communication was a lot different than it is now. I think that was probably still an age and maturity thing than it was anything else. I assume you know what I'm talking about, but as far as like how you would react to things, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
I'd be like, hey, dude, I need this or that. And I think it was kind of like it wasn't me necessarily criticizing, but sometimes it was. Be like, hey, we need to do this better, that better, or I just need this or that. And sometimes when I'm saying that, it wasn't me saying, you're doing a shitty job, but that's how you probably took it, or it was like the offended mindset, right? So tell us about that, like how you feel like you used to be 3-4 years ago compared to like now. There's just a drastic, we can have an honest conversation now, probably harder conversations than we used to have, and it goes a lot better now, I feel like. So
Yeah, before, I guess I was never put in those positions. Like I was never put in a leadership position to where I had that much responsibility. That was like the first step, is like, all right, well, I'm doing all these things now. At first it's overwhelming, so you're trying to get everything like perfect, and then in my eyes, you or Ellie would be like, hey, this needs to be done, or I'm just like, why me, basically,
Yeah.
or like, I'm doing my best. Like, so in my eyes, I'm like, well, I'm already doing all these things, and this one thing is wrong. So I would look at that negative more than all the positives that I was doing. And I just didn't react to it very well. I didn't take criticism very well, just because I felt like it was so personal. But at the end of the day, it wasn't. It's just, if you guys are telling me something, then obviously something as a business, on the business side, something's obviously wrong or something needs to be improved. So I just didn't handle it well. I'd go home pissed off, and I'm like, why am I doing this? Or why do I try all those good things? But I think now we trust each other. I trust Ellie, all your judgments, whoever, gym staff too. So I'm kind of like, all right, yeah, I'll go do this, and kind of take more initiative, because part of it now is that the staff that I have, if they see me complaining and me having a negative attitude towards things, then obviously they're not gonna trust me either. They're gonna have that same negative attitude. So just improving, like you said, maturity, but also with time, things get better. So more responsibilities for me, and just learning how to deal with that negative criticism, which isn't even criticism, it's just constructive. So obviously we all have the same goal. And back then I didn't look at it like that. I'm like, all right, well, not that I'm here to collect a paycheck. That was never the goal, because obviously we've always been close or whatever, but not knowing other people and having their opinions kind of rub off on me the wrong way, to where I took things way too personal. And now I can kind of just take a step back, and I'm like, all right, well, it's not that big of a deal. I'm just going to do it, and that's how it should be. So
yeah, there was definitely a lot of times where like you'd hold on to a lot of that stuff, right? Like it'd bottle up, or you'd get angry, or
yeah, I'd bottle it up.
Yeah,
I'd let it all out. And like,
or there'd be like a lot of little things that none of them were really major issues, but 4 or 5 little things, and all of a sudden it was a lot of anger at once. And so Gavino and I would have a lot of conversations like, hey, dude, you're feeling off. Or Gavino would reach out and be like, dude, I just need to talk for a sec. Like, I need to be heard, right? And that's also me learning to be a leader too, is like noticing those things and having those conversations. Early on, when it was me, Ellie, and Gavino kind of managing the gym sides of things a lot, there was a lot of times where Ellie would say, hey, Gavino, can you help us with this? Can you do that? And Gavino would basically be like, why the fuck can't you guys do it, right? Like that was the mindset. It was like, why do I got to take the garbage out? Or why? So it was like, this was the mindset. And when that was happening, and I'm not even saying really Ellie, I'm saying anybody who experienced that, I assume their mindset was, are you sure Gavino's going to be, because I kept telling people, I'm like, Gavino's going to be the manager. Like Gavino's, I know it, I can feel it, like he's going to be good, right? He's going to be good. And so I assume a lot of those people's mindsets, even when you were with PF stuff, and if my guys noticed you were getting pissed off or angry or whatever, if that happened, I think a lot of those people were probably like, are you sure, Gavino? Like gym staff, gym manager. And I just kind of had this feeling, I'm like, dude, we need him. Like this is going to be good. So now, where we're at now, and I even know Ellie for sure. Ellie's like, you were spot on with Gavino. Like he has come so far and improved so much. It was very good on your behalf. You guys have worked very well together and stuff. So it's really cool to see. Again, right now, this conversation we're having, we're looking back 4 years ago, basically. And it's just awesome to see. It's a huge, huge difference than it was even 2 years ago, probably. So we still have conversations every now and then, things that need to be talked about. I don't think it's necessarily bottled up as much. I think it's just we also have so many more things going on now. So it's like, how often can you and I have the conversations? Gavino and I still try to spend a lot of time outside of work together, whether it's golfing or doing whatever. It just depends what we've got going on, right? So that's kind of where we're at with that. Walking in. You want to sit in and watch us the last 10 minutes, Nolan? We've got Nolan joining the background of the pod, so you can see what's going to be like.
Episode, so he heard his name called.
Yeah, we've been talking all bad about Nolan this whole time. So that kind of gives us an insight on that stuff. Let's talk about kind of like your role today. So we've talked all about like the last 3-4 years. I'm sure there's plenty of stories we can go into. We will have Gavino on for future episodes as well, but to kind of skim the surface here, what is your role like today? What do you consider yourself? Yeah, just kind of tell us what you do.
Just managing most of the gyms. I feel like Ellie's still the face in Princeton just because she lives there. She's always been there. So she kind of takes care of most of the Princeton operations, but all the other Grizzlies, excluding O-Town, I feel like I'm kind of the face of most of those places, whether it comes to managing staff, handling staff complaints, customer complaints, inventory at all their gyms, which is a task in itself because we have from the littlest candy bars to everything in the fridge to all our proteins, all that stuff. So basically sending orders into Kyle. Kyle's the one that does all our ordering for that stuff. So inventory is kind of a huge one. Obviously, the day-to-day tasks, making sure the staff gets stuff done, making sure we have staff at our locations. Hiring new staff is something that's been a little bit newer to me in the last couple months. So I've had a little bit more responsibility. I'll be like, hey, Colton, we could use a Berlin hand or a Watoma hand, or hey, Colton, we should hire this person, that person. So being more involved in those decisions, as well as more back-end report stuff, helping Ellie with those things too. So I feel like I have my hand in a lot of different categories, which is kind of why I haven't gone to PF stuff as much, just because, hey, I'm needed here, or hey, I'm needed in Rosendale today. We don't have any staff there. So basically just making sure the gyms aren't on fire day to day is kind of a big one. And then managing the staff, inventory, restocking our gyms, whether it's ordering stuff to clean the bathrooms or whatever it is. So basically anything gym related at most of our locations, I feel like I have a pretty big part in for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So Gavino, yeah, definitely does all that kind of stuff. Gavino's basically, and I could say this about a lot of positions in the company, but he's definitely one of like the right-hand mans or right-hand guys in our day-to-day gym operations for sure. Gavino also does like our month-end reports. So I personally am not involved in a lot of the day-to-day stuff at the gyms. I do work out at our facilities. I do notice if they're dirty, and I relay that message to Gavino. I usually get on the treadmills here at Watoma, and I'm like, dude, like, and they were probably just dusted 2 days ago. It's just such a high use that there's things that need to be touched up, and you could basically clean all of our gyms 24 hours a day, and there'd always be something else to clean, right? Like they're big, and they've got a lot of traffic, so it is what it is. But Gavino is kind of like the right-hand guy. If I need something done at one of the gyms, if I need a different staff to do something, if I need a helping hand here, a helping hand there, if there's things that I'm noticing in the gym that aren't being done, I relay all that stuff to Gavino. Gavino also gives me insights on kind of like the gym's financials. So today is July 1st, 2nd. So today is July 2nd. Gavino's one of his roles is to give me a month-end report of all of the gyms, right? So we've got a spreadsheet for all 6 locations. So this includes O-Town, although Gavino and Jacob will kind of work on this together. We'll get all of our data in there. It'll kind of go over like how many members we have at each location, what our total revenue was. He'll work with Chase on getting like our personal training revenues in there. And then Gavino's, our supplements and inventory is a pain in the ass. And like that's one of the systems that we could definitely still work on making work better, because that's a big role that Gavino does. Gavino makes sure all the gyms, again, are stocked and has apparel and supplements for sale. And so if you're buying stuff from us, Gavino is the reason that you've got stuff on the shelf. But so that's also broken out in that spreadsheet too, is like how well are we selling apparel and supplements? And Gavino also relays the message to me, what supplements and apparel do we need? Mainly apparel. Hey, we need some tank tops here. We need some crappities here, whatever like the customers are saying, right? So Gavino is basically like my first line of defense for all of the gyms between the staff and the customers. So that works out very well. I mean, I'm very happy with it. Again, I think we communicate most days. We have good, honest conversations. So looking back 3-4 years ago, what have you seen yourself doing as much as you're doing now? Or what, when we first hired you, if I told you 4 years ago, this is what you're going to be doing in 3-4 years time, would have you been like, yeah, okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like you've developed so much. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are, what you're doing now compared to what you were hired to do, and just kind of how you've evolved with us. Like,
It was always definitely the goal, but I mean, you saw it. Obviously, not. I mean, lazy is not really the word, but kind of. And that's how I was. I'm like, all right, well, it's just a job. Let's go collect a paycheck. All right, I'll do the bare minimum, and then I'm kind of like, all right, well, if I don't do this, then I'm kind of SOL on this part too. So I kind of just made it more personal between us. I'm like, all right, well, I'm not doing this for. I mean, obviously, I'm doing it for Grizzly too, but I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do this for Colton now. He's my friend. Like, it's basically the hey, I don't want to let him down kind of thing. And now that's how it is with the rest of our management team, the rest of our staff too. Is like, I just have a lot of responsibility, and I have a lot of people that not necessarily look up to me, but I feel like I have to have a big part in what they do as well. So if I'm not doing my part, if I'm not pulling my weight, then I'm not letting myself down. I'm letting everybody down here. So kind of just that maturity part too, learning more things. I'm like, all right, well, I know how to do this as good as I can. Here's the next thing. So kind of just adding year by year, quarter by quarter, all our quarterly goals, yearly goals. Obviously, last year was a big step up for leadership stuff. That was kind of my goal last year. And that's obviously always the goal, is to be a better leader. So kind of just adding more to my plate little by little, trying not to be too overwhelmed, which I still am sometimes. Definitely not as bad as in the past, but just take a step back and realize that I can do this thing too. So
I think that's a good thing to touch on too, because this is something that I talk about on our episodes. Is like this is a prime example of like leading by example. Like what you just said, like you want to lead by example, so your staff under you is like, okay, like I see what's going on. So I always talk about everybody should be their own leader, and you have to lead those around you, whether you're a spouse or a teacher or a coworker, whatever it is. There's people who look up to you, right? So it's important to, and this is the prime example. I'm a leader, but then I'm talking to a leader here as well. And so we're developing leaders, and like everybody is a leader in their own sense. Like everybody's got to lead by example and do what they're supposed to do. So I'm happy that's kind of your attitude and your mental, because I feel like, again, 3-4 years ago, when we had this, if we had the same conversation, that wouldn't have been, those words wouldn't have even came out of your mouth. That wouldn't have been something you were even thinking about necessarily. So it's very cool to see. We've also got Gavino reading more now. So Gavino's reading a lot of books on his own, which is awesome. What is that word for? What is that word? Like a prodigy, right? I think that's the word I'm looking for. Gavino's kind of like the prodigy. I got him on the carnivore diet. He follows that. Gavino's a workout partner of mine. He doesn't really like to, he will get some workouts in by himself, but he likes to work out with me. He likes to kind of hop on the carnivore diet. And now we've got him reading and we've got him leading, right? So like we've been doing all these things together, and I've been working specifically with Gavino to develop these things, and it's awesome to see. So we've got you reading now. What kind of stuff you've been reading? What's that been like?
I read a lot of coaching books just because that's what I do on the side as well. So I read a couple John Wooden books, a couple Coach K books. I just finished a Kobe book. That was the Mama Mentality one. That one's, just in life, having that kind of killer mindset in whatever you do. That was the one I just finished the other day. And then you granted me with 1 or 2 new ones as well. So we'll start those. I've been a little bit better on business books. I don't know off the top of my head which one. But I started using my iPad as a Kindle, finally using my iPad. So use that. I downloaded, I got Kindle Unlimited, got a bunch of business books on there too. So I think I have like 10 or 12 books just sitting in my queue right now that I'm kind of ready to dive into as well. But I'm not as good as you as far as like reading 6 books at a time. I would just mix all those into each other. So
Like to
I
stick
kind
to
of just
one.
focus on the one,
Yeah.
and then I'll move to the next one. But I think my Q3 goal is to finish 5 books, and Q1 was probably like 2 books. Q2 was probably 3. So kind of just growing that and spending more free time on that and less video games, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. And again, this is another good example too. You guys need to find what makes sense to you for reading, right? Like, you don't have to read what I read. You don't have to read like self-help or business. Obviously, for you, I want you to read a little bit about a business as we grow together. It's kind of like the next step, right? Like you're developing leadership, and the books you're reading are all leadership based. But I want you to kind of understand like the back end of things too. So the bigger we get, you can help step in those roles and understand. And if we read similar things, we can understand similar things to be on the same page. But Gavino's reading a lot of stuff on coaching because that's like his niche. That's what he likes to do, and that's something he's good at. And that's something he wants to continue doing better at. So again, if you like gardening or airplanes or whatever it is, read on what you're good at and what you like. Like just make that your thing, you know. So don't feel like you have to read all this stuff that you're not interested in. Find something that kind of gets you going and stick to that. So that's super cool. What other habits, if anything, have we kind of instilled in you recently? I know you've got the Aura and the Whoop. I don't know if you're using the Aura anymore, but we've got them both on as well. So there's a handful of us that are hopping on the Aura and the Whoop. I personally like seeing different metrics. I don't like relying on one. Again, if you don't want to spend the money, don't spend the money on both. But they both have interesting things. So you've got them. What is your personal routine, or what have you also noticed on yourself?
I just looking at my sleep scores, just because some days I feel like I got a bad night of sleep, or after we're out at the bars on a Friday night, it's kind of cool to look at those low numbers, I guess. But a lot of sleep score stuff on my Aura ring, and then it's kind of cool to see like your body strain and stuff on the Whoop. So that's kind of been something I've seen. And then I kind of just compare the two. Obviously, I'm not as smart as you or Chase. I don't know what some of the stuff means. Even then, HRV, that word still, or those 3 letters still confuse me a little bit. But kind of just having the sense of, all right, well, my body needs this, or hey, I got a crap recovery, maybe why, or kind of seeing all those reasons too. So it's kind of just fun to look at. But
Have you changed like sleep routines or sleep habits or anything like that? Or have you tried to? I know you've got sleeping is kind of a roller coaster for you, but have you had any?
it's definitely been more consistent, especially with working out again in the morning. I'm not sleeping till almost 8 o'clock, and then getting ready for work, and then getting to work at 9. It's kind of, all right, today waking up at 5:45 to work out. That means I have to go to bed earlier. So kind of just staying around like that 10 o'clock mark is kind of where I've been sleeping at. So usually, I mean, before, if I would get 7 hours of sleep, I'd be crabby and pissy and pouty the next morning. But now kind of 7.5 is kind of that average for me. So I guess it helps me stay a little bit more consistent as, hey, let's not stay up till midnight playing video games or
Yeah.
watching this movie tonight, and let's go to bed early. So
Yeah. Fair enough. We're probably gonna wrap up the episode here. Is there anything else that you wanna any other one off stories or anything that you wanna kinda throw in or thoughts? Or maybe let's finish with what do you see, and this one might be maybe tough, like in the next year, so let's say the end of 2026, what are some things that like you would maybe like to see yourself doing within the company, or um, maybe like new skills that you want to work on? Like, so just like future you've already developed so much in the last 3, 4 years. Where are areas that maybe you could see yourself continuing to develop, or maybe help take over within the gyms as well? Or, um, you know, if you have anything that comes to mind, it doesn't need to be a list of things,
I
but
just think it's like never ending with systems. I mean, I think we've definitely come so far. I mean, even the other day, we have some snap memories where I just send you a picture of like our old supplement shelves.
Mhm.
Stuff like that's cool to look at, to just see where we've come. And obviously, with that, that's improving our systems. We can always have better systems. So I think like internally, one thing that I could do better is try to find better systems, whether it's inventory or restocking, just to make things easier, not just for myself, but for staff too. And then staff connection, I think, has been the one big one for me, is where I try and connect as often as I can. Because obviously, I'm only working from 9 to 4 or whatever, 8 to 4 throughout most days. So I don't see our night staff. I'm only in one place every day. So I might not see a Berlin staff, Rosendale. So just trying to connect with them on a more personal level, but also business, and just see where they're at. Because most of the time, if somebody's working our front desk, they're kind of by themselves. So making sure they're not feeling lonely or whatever that feeling is, and let them know that, hey, we're still paying attention to you as well. So just connections with them, and then our systems too. But
Yeah.
just continue to be a better leader, obviously, is a big one.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. I mean, I see you being a long-term player with us. I want to keep developing and grow with you within the organization, so I'm excited about that. I think we're going to cut today's episode here. We've got another recording we have to do here shortly, and then we've got a team meeting at 10 today with our Grizzly staff. So you guys will obviously be seeing this tomorrow, Thursday the 3rd. It is happy 4th of July, so wish you guys the best on that. Thank you for joining us. It was an awesome first episode. I thought this went really well, so hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Feel free to shoot us any messages, thoughts, ideas on what you thought. Give us some feedback, input, maybe some questions you've got for Gavino or things you want me to ask Gavino, or maybe understand a little bit more about our relationship here. If you want to add me on Snapchat, Colton.Burt, Colton, _Burt. Instagram and Facebook, ColtonBurt19. And our email is marketing@fitnessgrizzly.com. And I think that's it. I don't think you don't need any personal socials out there, right? We're not working on the Gavino personal brand. So if you want to connect with Gavino, stop in the gym and get a membership and have a conversation with him. So thank you guys again. Appreciate you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in the next one.